$10 for a freeze-dried meal is out of control. That's why I'm on a mission today to find one of these meals and make a better version of it for a fraction of the cost. But first, I went to the store to find a meal that I wanted to replicate, and I actually found one that looked pretty good. I found this freeze-dried beef lasagna, and as I started looking at it, it's not an actual layered lasagna, it's more of a pasta. And I was looking at the ingredients and I saw that it had noodles and beef, pasta sauce, different Italian cheeses, and this looked pretty easy for me to make. So I went shopping. I found some extra wide egg noodle pasta. The egg noodles rehydrate extremely well, and I wanted the extra wide because I feel like it fits with the lasagna theme. And yes, I am shopping store brand today. It's gonna make this entire meal a whole lot cheaper. I also got some pasta sauce, some shredded Italian cheeses, I got some ground beef, as well as some ricotta cheese because you can't have a lasagna without ricotta cheese, and that's one thing that I did not see in this. And I'm not following a recipe today. I honestly didn't even look up a recipe for this. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. But as I'm making this dish, I'm gonna write everything I'm doing down in my little handy dandy notebook here. That way by the time this video gets posted, you can just go down in the description of this video, you can get a free PDF of this recipe. I also have the receipt from when I went to the store. At the end of this video, I'm gonna do a breakdown of all the costs associated with this. How much is my meal gonna cost per serving compared to the $10 of this meal? All right, now we're doing 7 pounds of ground beef in this. I want this to be a really hearty meal. I know as soon as I bust into that Mountain House meal, there's not gonna be a lot of meat in there. I want a lot of meat. This is 80-20 beef, and this was kind of the middle of the road of what I wanted to do because I could have gone really cheap and gotten a tube of beef, you know, the little giant meat tubes. Could have gotten one of those, but I didn't. I wanted to go with something that was still good quality, so this is an 80-20. It's gonna have more fat than the 93, which is what you typically wanna do in freeze drying. Since this is an 80-20, when this is all cooked, there's gonna be a lot of fat sitting there in the bottom, and fat doesn't freeze dry. I could get away with just kind of draining the fat off and freeze drying it, and I probably wouldn't run into any issues. It would still last plenty of years on the shelf. I've seen a lot of people lately freeze drying the higher fat foods that previously were kind of taboo and people didn't want to do. But for me, just to be safe, I am gonna rinse this meat. It is gonna rinse off some of the flavor. You can always add that flavor back in with some seasoning. So give me just a minute here. I'm gonna get my beef browned, I'm gonna get it rinsed off, and then we'll come back and move on to the next step. I had to change the lighting in here. I couldn't tell if the meat was done or if it was still pink because of the lighting. So this is what we get now. All right, now our beef is rinsed, it is cooked, it is all done. Once again, let's talk about the rinsing of the meat here. You don't have to rinse your meat. I did because I don't know how long it's gonna take us to eat this food. If you or your family are gonna be able to eat 25 meals, which is roughly what we're gonna be getting out of this batch, if you and your family can eat 25 meals within the next 3 to 5 years, then maybe you don't have to rinse it. Maybe just absorb and get out as much fat as you can. Just drain the fat out, maybe hit it with a paper towel, put it on, lay it out on a paper towel, just whatever you can to get as much fat as you can out without rinsing it and losing that flavor. For me, I've done it both ways, and I don't really see a huge difference when I rinse it as far as flavor goes, because you can add flavor back into seasoning. That's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna set this aside, we're gonna start on the next step. Now it's time to work on the pasta sauce. So we're gonna start with a big old pot. And like I said earlier, I'm trying to make this as cheap as possible. So yes, I'm using great value, traditional pasta sauce. It's still gonna taste good. I've got 3 of these containers. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a good amount, but we've got 45 ounces each. We're gonna use 3 of these. All right, now the sauce is starting to heat up, so let's go ahead and get our meat into the sauce. I'm trying my best not to spill here. That is a lot of meat, but that's exactly what I want. All right, now it's time for some ricotta cheese. This is one that you don't necessarily have to do, but if you're doing a lasagna, you kind of can't do a lasagna without ricotta cheese. And this is one ingredient that I did not see in that Mountain House meal. So it would have been cheaper if I didn't use it, but I had to. I'm gonna put this entire, what is it, 32 ounce jug. Is this a jug? This entire 32 ounce, I'm gonna go with tub. So I'm gonna break this cheese up in here, and it's gonna make this sauce just more creamy. And with how thin ricotta cheese is, it's just kind of melting right down and mixing in just fine. And I can already tell right now that this is gonna make more than what my freeze dryer can hold by a lot. So I'll be adjusting the recipe when I post it in the description. And I'll also adjust the pricing based on the recipe that I'm building. So this is definitely too much. So looks like this is what I'm having for dinner tonight, which I'm not gonna complain about. All right, now this is where you wanna start adding your seasonings. I'm using AP seasoning. AP seasoning is just salt, pepper, garlic. So add salt, pepper, garlic to taste. You can also add rosemary, different Italian seasonings. But for me, this kind of does the job. It doesn't really matter what brand you get. There's a lot of different brands that make AP seasoning. This is just the one that I use. There we go. Oh yeah, that's so good. There is twice as much sauce sitting in here than I thought there would be. Definitely need to adjust the recipe here. All right, now let's talk about the noodles that we're using. These are extra wide egg noodles. Once again, great value, and it's okay. We're using egg noodles. You can use any other noodle that you want. I like using egg noodles and stuff like this because it freeze dries and then rehydrates extremely well. That's why I use it. We are using 2 bags of this. This is 16 ounces. We're gonna use 2 bags. There will be more sauce than what's gonna be needed for the pasta. That is okay, as long as we have our pasta ratio down. My wife is actually over there cooking it right now. So as soon as that's done, we're gonna get this all mixed together, add the shredded cheese in at the very end, and then we're gonna get it in our freeze dryer and get it freeze drying. My lovely wife finished our pasta for us. I'm honestly kind of in this zone where I think we might have undershot the pasta and overshot the sauce. We're gonna find out. I can always make the other bag of pasta that we have. We're gonna see where 2 packs get us. Now we just need to get our sauce into our pasta here. That's terrifying. All right, let's start there. Woo! All right, I made a mess, that's okay. I don't want these meals to be too pasta heavy. I would prefer them to be more sauce heavy. So I'm gonna throw some more sauce in there. And it's not just because I made too much sauce. I know what you're thinking. I prefer it this way. Another great value special, we've got some Italian style shredded cheese. This is a 1 pound bag. I'm gonna throw the whole thing in there. Make it nice and cheesy. And just stir it on in. Start with half and stir that up. The other half. This is looking so good. Wow, this could very well be one of the best freeze-dried meals I've made. We are using a 5-tray medium freeze dryer, this one right here. So I got 5 trays here. I have parchment paper down on each tray. This is just gonna help everything not stick to the bottom. Let's get all 5 of our trays laid out here, if they will fit. It's not very often that I cook something where I'm just in love with it. Normally my wife is the cook. This is good. This is really good. I've got a ladle that I'm gonna scoop this on with. And I'm gonna try to get each one of these trays as close to even as possible. I'm gonna weigh each tray before they go in the freeze dryer. And this is just so I know rehydration rate when everything is done. I will show you exactly how I do all that. What's awesome is my wife was just asking me, hey, what do you want to do for dinner? And I was like, don't worry. Don't you worry, babe. I got dinner today. I think we're gonna be good. We're gonna have a good amount here. This is pretty much gonna fill these perfectly. Got a few scoops left in here. I think we're gonna find out. It's close. There we go, that's all of it. These are all looking pretty even to me. We'll find out here in a minute when we weigh them, but I am putting dividers in. What this is gonna do is divide each of these trays into 10 sections, and we're gonna use 2 sections per meal. That way we have even meals across the board. I got these from freezedryingsupplies.com. I'll have a link for these down in the description, but they're super easy. You just set them in here. Just kind of make sure they're all sitting even, and then you push down on them. They have these little almost knives on it, so it's gonna cut right through the meat and the why can't I even think of the name of the little squiggly things? Pasta, noodles, those. It cuts through all that just fine. Squiggly things. Sorry, this is my first time filming in here, and I spent like 4 hours trying to make it not echoey. Obviously it didn't work. So I'm filming very late. So I'm gonna get one of these into every single tray. If my calculations are correct, that's how I fill every time. We're gonna label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 from your perspective. I'm going to weigh them with everything you see right here, everything. Once they're done, I'm going to pull them out and weigh them again exactly how they are now, minus the water. That's gonna tell me how much water was taken out of every single tray. Best way to weigh these is just get yourself like a little food scale from Walmart, Amazon, wherever you go. Little food scale. I like to measure these in grams. It's gonna be the most accurate. I think it's the most accurate. In my brain, it's the most accurate. First one is 1907, 1943, 1896, 1927. I got these pretty even. 1938. Right now, my freezer is completely full and there's no way these are gonna fit in there. Not even close to fit in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my freeze dryer started. I'm gonna tell you the settings I'm using, and I'm also gonna tell you the settings if you pre-freeze your food. You should probably pre-freeze these. These are warm. It's gonna take this a very long time to get this frozen. So if you can pre-freeze it, please do. But if not, follow the same settings I'm using, but I'll tell you what to do if you're not. Initial freeze, we're doing -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Extra freeze time, we're doing 2 hours. That's the one you might wanna change if you are pre-freezing. If you're pre-freezing, you don't need that extra 2 hours of freeze time. The only reason I'm using that is because I wanna make sure this is frozen solid before the machine actually starts its freeze dry cycle. Extra 2 hours, if you didn't pre-freeze, forget the extra 2 hours if you do pre-freeze. The dry temp is 125 degrees Fahrenheit, and extra dry time, as always, 24 hours, just in case I'm not here. We're gonna go ahead and hit save and start. Time to load them up. This is gonna go a long time. This is a lot of food. These trays are packed pretty full, and I didn't pre-freeze them. This is gonna take a while. If I had to guess, this is gonna take 48 hours. We'll see. The way that I'm loading these is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I can keep track of the weights, just in case I don't end up averaging it out. If there's anything you've seen today that you're interested in, whether it be the freeze dryer, the tray dividers, whatever else I've used, I'm gonna have links down in the description below, so you can go check those out. Once this is done, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna package it up. I'm going to explain to you how I figure out my rehydration rate. I'm gonna rehydrate one of these, give it a taste test. I'm also going to pull out that Mountain House meal, compare the Mountain House meal to the meal that I just made, and then I'm gonna go over the cost breakdown of everything that I used. I was pretty close. We didn't go quite the 48 hours that I thought we would. We went 45, but it's time to get them out. 1, 2, 1 through 5, this direction. Forgot my pen. How am I supposed to write in the handy dandy notebook if I don't have a pen? Let's get a weight on these. 1,074, 1,133, 1,166, 1,118, and 1,080. I'm gonna package one of these up so I can show you how I do it, and then I'll come back when the rest of them are done because this is gonna take me a minute. When I'm doing a full meal, I love to use the little MRE bags because you can just pour the boiling water straight into this. You can eat it out of this, so if you are in the backcountry or in any kind of emergency situation, you don't need to worry about a bowl. And for these meals, I'm gonna be using 2 of these squares, which is 1/5 of the tray. If you are using a vacuum sealer, at this point, you want to take your 2 little squares and put them together so they're facing each other, just so you don't have the ragged edges, kind of the sharp edges of the noodles facing outwards towards the bag. So they'll be facing in towards each other. They'll go right into the MRE bag. And at this point, if you don't have a vacuum sealer, you don't need one. Just put an oxygen absorber in your bag, push as much air as you can out of there, and seal it up. I'm using a vacuum sealer today. There's a lot of different brands that make these days. This one is an Avid Armor one. I've seen a good one come out from Vivor and a few other brands. Just make sure if you are getting a vacuum sealer specifically for freeze drying, make sure it can do Mylar bags. So let's go ahead and get an oxygen absorber in. And if I'm not using a whole package of my oxygen absorbers right as soon as I open it, I have a little jelly jar, and they go straight into the jelly jar, and then I close it. That's gonna keep them good for longer. So for me now, I'm gonna put my oxygen absorber in my meal. I'm gonna leave it unsealed for now. I don't wanna seal that zipper up because these can do bags that have zippers on it. You just wanna make sure you don't close that zipper so it can suck the air out. The settings that I'm using on here, I brought the vacuum time all the way down to 20 seconds. That's as low as this goes. What this is gonna do is it's going to be less serious of a vacuum, so that way I don't poke any holes in my Mylar. And then the set time for the sealing is gonna be 9 seconds. That's as high as it goes because this is really thick Mylar. Go ahead and push start. If you've never seen this part, it's pretty cool. Seals it right up. And we have a vacuum sealed MRE is what we'll call it. I have 24 more of these meals to do, so I'm gonna come back as soon as I have them done. We're gonna go over rehydration rates, we're gonna go over cost breakdown, how they taste compared to the Mountain House ones. Just give me just a second and we'll do it all. Here we are, I've got all 25 of my meals. We're gonna bust one open and eat it here in just a second. But real quick, let's talk about rehydration rate. So if I look at the starting weight of each one of these, I'm gonna take the average of them all, and the average starting weight of all my trays was 1,922 grams. And the average ending weight of each one of these trays was 1,114 grams, which means we lost 808 grams on average per tray. And since we have 5 servings per tray, we can divide 808 by 5, and that gives us 161 grams of water per serving that we removed. Now, if you take 161 grams and convert that into cups, it is 0.67 cups of water. That is pretty much 2/3 cups. So what I do at this point, so now that I know my starting point, 2/3 cups of water is what should be in each one of these bags, especially because we did the average. I'm gonna start a little bit below the 2/3 cup range. If you wanna get more accurate, go and do every single tray and get your rehydration rate for each tray. But for me, I would much rather add less water in the beginning and have to add more in later than to add too much water in the beginning and then end up with this just watery meal. I'd rather have it more thick. I hope I broke that down well enough. If you were confused in any way at all about how I did this, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to explain it better. I do have a couple more little weights I want to get because these are going to be different serving sizes. I didn't realize when I bought this, but this is a 2 serving bag right here, and this is going to be a 1 serving. I would imagine in total, we're gonna have more weight in this one than we do in total with this one, but this is 1 serving, this is 2 servings. If I had to guess, this is gonna weigh about 2/3 of what this weighs altogether. So let's go ahead and find out real quick. Let's see how accurate this is because this says 3.6 ounces. Let's go ahead and get it dumped in here. We got this tared out. And we also want to see what this one looks like. How much meat is in it? What's the sauce look like? Is it just noodle heavy? What are we working with? Pull out the oxygen absorber. Okay, so this meal is actually a little bit heavier. So it says 3.6 ounces right here. It's actually 3.7. It's a good start. But let's take a closer look at this meal here. As I'm looking in here, there's almost no meat. Like there's a couple little chunks there. This is mostly sauce and noodles. Looks like there might be a little piece of tomato there. I figured this was gonna be a sauce and noodle heavy meal, and that's exactly what it's looking like. Sometimes I seal these Mylar bags too well. I always give it like an extra seal or two. So the Mountain House one, we've got 3.7 ounces for 2 servings, and for ours, we've got 1 serving at 2.7 ounces. That's not too bad. If you did want to have a bigger meal, then you could add 3 squares per meal instead of 2. And at the end of this, when I do the cost breakdown, I'll do the cost with 2 squares versus 3 squares and kind of what you're looking at there. But let's scooch in and see what ours looks like. Lots of noodles, lots of meat in there, plenty of sauce. This to me is this is something that I would want to eat much more than that. But I can't say too much until I actually try both of these because this very well could be good. So let's go ahead and heat some water up. I'll be right back and we'll get them rehydrated. I put both of these back into the bags just for easy rehydration. Let's go ahead and just go off the instructions on this one. So instructions say, remove the oxygen absorber, add 1 1/2 cups of water, stir carefully, reseal package, wait 5, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and add 1 1/2 cup water to this one. 1/2, 1, 1/2. Don't worry, as soon as this is all rehydrated, I'm gonna put it back into the bowl so you can see exactly what it looks like. I'll come back to that one in 5 minutes. On this one, we're gonna do a little bit less than 2/3 because 2/3 is what our rehydration rate should be. I'm gonna go just a little bit less. So 1/3, just under 2/3. And honestly, I might add more than 2/3. There's a lot of times that I do end up adding quite a bit more, but like I said earlier, I would much rather have not enough than too much. I'll be back in 5 minutes. It's time to eat this. This is actually the second time I recorded this, so I had to put it all back in the bag because the camera wasn't on last time. Take 2, I'm gonna pour this into the bowl. That's why my bowl's dirty, so that way you can see what this is looking like. All right, so here's the Mountain House. If I'm being totally honest, this is what I expected out of a Mountain House meal, just because it's a commercial freeze-dried meal. There's not a lot of options out there, so people are gonna buy whatever they need to go backpacking in the mountains, especially when you don't have your own freeze dryer. There's hardly any meat in here whatsoever. There's a ton of sauce in here, a few noodles. Like this is mostly, I feel like this is just a bowl of sauce. It still deserves a taste test, so let's go ahead and try that. I gotta try it again. The flavor's familiar. I'm trying to put my finger on it. SpaghettiOs. I feel like I'm eating a bowl of SpaghettiOs. Like out of the can SpaghettiOs. Just tons of sauce, little noodles here and there. I would be upset if I was somebody who paid $10 to get this picture. If I wanted to get this picture when I was up in the woods, and this is what came out. The flavor's not bad if you like SpaghettiOs, which I do. Let's move on to the one that I made. So if you are somebody that likes things to be saucy, like this other one was, then add more than 2/3 cup. Or yes, 2/3 is what I added. Just a hair below 2/3 is what I put in. So maybe go the full 2/3 if you want it to be a little bit more saucy. Like you can see the cheese still stringing in there. This is what I want to eat when I'm in the mountains. There's tons of meat in here. There's cheese in there, sauce, noodles. Let's give it a try when you see how it rehydrated, how it tastes. Let's see just how good it is. The difference between the flavors of the two is night and day. This tastes like a lasagna. That tastes like SpaghettiOs. Like as I'm chewing this, I can feel the meat, I can feel the cheese, I can feel the noodles. Like everything is in there and it's all working together, but on its own. I can tell everything that's in there. With that, it was very much just like one big slop of a mess. This is one of the best freeze-dried meals that I've made so far. It rehydrated extremely well. Nothing is crunchy. This is like a hearty meal. How much is my meal versus the Mountain House? So, Mountain House meal came in at $9.68. That is for 2 servings, quote unquote. But if you look at the whole of what's in the bag, what I have is about 75% of what's in the Mountain House as far as weight goes. To me, I wouldn't want a meal much bigger than the one that I made, but I did do the math on what this would cost for you if you did 3 squares instead of 2 squares. All right, let's do it this way. The containers of pasta sauce that we got were $2.98. We used 2 of them for $5.96 total on those. Egg noodles, we used 2 packages. Each package was $1.48, and that was a total of $2.96. Ricotta cheese, we did 1 tub at $4.76. Shredded cheese, we did 1 package at $3.78. The beef is where it got expensive. We used 5 pounds of beef. We used 7, but for the recipe that I'm building, we used 5 because we didn't use all the sauce. So 5 pounds of beef is what you would want to buy if you wanted to be this beefy. That's where this got expensive. You can drastically reduce the cost of this if you just use a little bit less beef, or if you can find a deal on beef. So beef, $24.43 for 5 pounds. On average, my freeze dryer runs about $2.50 per run, so I added that in here as well. That gives us a total of $44.39 that we spent to make this. If you bring that into 25 meals, which is what I did, so the 2 squares, 25 meals, that is $1.77 that I spent on this. $1.77 per meal compared to $9.68. $1.77, I will pay that all day. That to me, that's amazing. Make a bunch of these, go into the mountains with your friends. Nobody's gonna wanna eat that. If you go with the bigger version, so if you do 3 squares instead of 2, that is gonna give you 16 meals. Technically, it's 16.6 meals. Your last one, I would just rehydrate it and eat it for lunch. 16 meals is what you're gonna get, and that is gonna be $2.77, which is still an incredible deal compared to the Mountain House or really any other big commercial freeze drying meal brand. I am happy with this. I did exactly what I came here to do. I made a better version of this mountain house for a lot less money, and it is so much better. It doesn't even compare. Not even the same flavor profile. I made what it was supposed to make and didn't. If this is a recipe that you want, you can find it in the description below. Go down there and get it, or don't, it's up to you.